本当？見えないでしょ？どこにいるのかな？見えないよ。What's good, Internet? It is Tuesday, April 13th, and you are listening to Waypoint Radio, episode 388. I'm your host, Austin Walker. I'm joined today by Patrick Klepek.
Hello.
Rob Zachney.
Good morning.
And Ricardo Contreras.
Yo.
How's everyone doing today?
Go ahead.
No, it's cold and
gray,
and it's that
rainy.
particular kind of cold that is like, do you have any joint issues? You're gonna feel all of them right now. And it's like, from the moment I got up this morning, I was like, you know what I need to do? I need to rush order a slanket and just get into one as quickly as possible.
Are you in it now?
No, of course not. I wouldn't be caught dead in a slanket. But there are days when I'm like, it sounds good.
He says that, and then Rob's gonna get up and like forget that it's on his bottom half and just completely expose the lie.
A slanket is whole body blanket. Like
that was a whole craze for a while there, right?
It went by another name too. It was also popular.
What was it? Snuggie.
Yeah, that was the one.
That's the brand.
The slanket
probably.
is that as a type of Snuggie, or is that an offshoot, like a knockoff?
I think there are two brands basically
of sleeved blanket.
Yeah.
So a robe.
The product has been marketed by various brands such as Snuggie, Snuggler, Dujo, Toasty Wrap, and Slanket, with varying sizes, colors, and qualities, but similar basic design.
Snuggler.
How much are we? Can we guess? I want to guess the price. $75
For like a good one?
Are there quality options?
I don't know. Probably.
I gotta believe there's fabric options. Like,
yeah.
I'm thinking like whatever, like the default. Like, hey, do you want one of these things? I'm thinking $75.
Maybe even cheaper because they just want your money. And also your information to sell to third parties.
there's like some sort of rayon fabric nightmare thing that's going for like $30 a pop, I bet.
Ugh, rayon.
I'm gonna check.
Amazon Basics now, I'm sure, makes a
I'm
slanket.
sure. I'm so
That's
sure.
$10.
The struggle of our times is like, I know how toxic that is, and then inevitably it is still tempting occasionally to just buy their thing.
All right, the slanket, $39.99.
Oh, nice.
So, the comfy original microfiber. Oh, the comfy.
Microfiber.
It's a different brand.
Yeah. What are my upgrade options? What can I get upsold on?
See, this is the thing is here you could get this infrared sauna blanket for $500. That's not really a slanket. This is
infrared?
more of, yeah, this feels like a scam.
Is this to protect me from the COVID rays?
Yeah, this seems like
I don't like that.
From your 5G. This is like a sleeping bag that you put on and it says "Get High Naturally" on it. It's purple.
So when the rest of so after you get your second shot, you need to go into this.
Immediately, you got to get in.
This is your recovery pod.
Not to get too dark here.
Yeah.
But this is definitely an outlet for excess supply of body bags, right?
That is what it looks like to me, yes.
Like, it looks like a body bag manufacturer was like, damn, we just got too many of these body bags.
Damn it. How do we get on the detox scam? Take a wellness cure from the likes of celebrities worldwide and take your dose, all caps, on the go. Perfect for traveling or at-home use, our infrared sauna blankets increase the body's thermal energy and promote a temporary increase in blood flow, so you'll sweat like you're working out without working out. This is one of the oldest scams in the book.
This is tremendous.
I guess I can't say shit about this actual company. I don't know. I haven't looked at the research.
All I can say is
it's similar.
It seems to me like the definition of increasing your body's thermal energy that they're using here would be fulfilled by any blanket. And in fact, we're not really talking about increasing thermal energy so much as containing its heat loss.
Yeah, right. Looks like the Snuggie you can get for a little bit cheaper. I was going to say that. Like $20, that's not too bad. But $40 seems to be the going rate. If I click on over here, yeah, you can get things like, hey, this one is fleece, and that's going to cost you like $75. You know, you increase that price point, you can get it up there. You know,
Cado, you have. I'm willing to acknowledge the image that you pasted, which is a section about various press that has been done about this item. But you know what? I know 100% what happened here, which is like. The conversation we just had happened amongst a bunch of people and was like, I bet they'll send us one of those fucking things for free in exchange for like a quippy blog. And then some person just has that in their house and like they have a party and it's like, hey, here's the get high room. Like, you know, we're just, you want to go get in there and see what happens?
Here's the other
What
thing
do people think getting high is? Sweating a lot?
Yeah, I mean,
So this is like a runner's high equivalent. They're trying to like,
Maybe
hey, you could run a marathon or you could just
it is called
lay on the bed.
Higher dose. A dose of what?
Well,
Higher
so
dose.
this is
Higher
this is the way
dose.
like wellness culture conflated with like weed culture in
Yeah.
some ways too, where it became like you start seeing terminology where it's like, oh man, gotta get my fix of a good sweat, if you know what I mean. And what they literally mean is like sweat out those bodily impurities.
Wait, I found this interview with Selena Gomez.
Yeah, I clicked on that too. I was like,
I
okay.
have a sweat bed, which looks like a burrito that I wrap myself in, and I sweat for about 45 minutes. Just little things to kind of keep me healthy and keep me focused. Wait, this burrito sweat bed is fascinating. Is this something you can buy, or is it something that Amy created for you?
I think
No,
I
you
think
can actually buy it. They wrap you up. I used to lay in these beds in a sweatsuit. They wrap you up and you sweat for 45 minutes and it releases all the toxins from your body. And you kind of feel kind of the equivalent of a sauna, but it gets your heart rate up. It gets everything flowing in your body. It changed my skin. It changed my body as well. So it feels really good. I guess if it works for Selena Gomez.
Okay,
Just like-
I know it sounds gross, but you just sit in your sweat for an hour and don't immediately shower because there's natural collagen in your toxins that it actually makes your skin feel softer before you wash it all off. I'm not a doctor.
Yeah, but if I just click on this review from Goop, I think.
Now we're in a brand
some
we
real
can trust.
science here.
I mean, I guess it's a portable sauna. Do you like
Yeah.
going in a sauna? Not
Right,
particularly.
sure. Right. But
So
would you
I think saunas are cool.
Sure.
I don't think bag I sweat in is quite the sauna experience.
How are we
I prize.
cleaning this thing?
I don't know
You
how.
just
I
put
was
this
just
in
thinking.
You just
Is
wiping
it-
it down? It's not going in them.
It needs the hose. It
Nastiest
needs the
thing.
hose.
Out on the New York sidewalk,
Yeah.
hosing down my.
My portable sauna.
He's like, did somebody die in your apartment? No, this is my sweat bag.
Don't worry.
I
about
cook fish in here with me. I bring it in. You know, I get some
Right.
meals done.
Fish in a bag.
Fish in
How
a
do
fish
I
in a fish in a.
So do we
Sweat
think this interview with Selena Gomez though? Do you think it organically came up where she's like, I just love
No,
my
she was
sweat bag?
paid.
Yeah,
Yeah, this is.
But like they don't do the thing where it's like, hey, I'm repping this.
Oh, laws don't apply to real celebrities, just to influencers.
Right.
Oh, gotcha.
Real celebrities just. What are they going to do? Fine Selena Gomez? Sure.
There's some copy. There's a made up interview is written. Like one of her PR handles signs off on it, and she may not even know. She didn't even know the check showed up.
Listen, maybe she really loves her sweat bag.
Sure,
It's possible.
readers,
It's possible.
one of you must have encountered a
Yeah,
sweat
I
bag
would
in the
love
wild.
to know.
These look popular amongst a certain section of the world. Like there are articles that are updated with, "Hey, COVID made like this sounds like a COVID consequence." Well, welcome to COVID consequence corner. And a lot of these were sold out, and now they're back in stock again. Like there's like notes in a bunch of these articles. They're like, you can buy it again. So one of you motherfuckers has been around someone that
Who has
got that tempted into
One of these types of
the blanket, and one of you has thought what all of us would be thinking.
My real issue here
I know
is
that's
that
gross, but like I gotta try it.
This thing is $500 for a portable
Yeah.
sauna. Look at this shit.
That sounds about right.
Nah. Look at this shit. This is more. This is
Cado, we can't
$121.
so
This is
wish-
$121 for a
Yeah,
portable sauna that you can
This is-
sit in.
I've seen this thing.
I
It's
have
a
seen this
hamper.
thing before.
This is just a clothing hamper. Wait, why is there a professional steam cooker in there? What?
It's a sauna. You gotta get the steam.
It's literally a sauna.
Yeah.
It's
You put some
literally
rice
a
in
little
there?
chair. It's
You probably
literally-
make rice
You know,
in there,
hey,
you know?
I'm prepping my.
Professional steam cooker. Why is it called a steam
put
cooker?
some
It
ribs
looks
on?
like a fucking Instapot.
It does.
I was
literally
looking at it, I
look
was like,
an
that's
Instapot.
strong Instapot vibes.
It does look like an Instapot.
But you're the food.
The greatest invention of our generation.
This image, which if people want to look for it, please Google portable personal sauna 2L on wish.com. This image looks like if you were just like at the airport and like a little bleary-eyed at 6 a.m. and you just saw like a woman on her phone coming down in a sauna thing as the rest of the luggage comes out of the compartment.
100%.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, that
okay.
adds up. It literally looks like luggage with a little chair in it and a tiny Instapot underneath the chair.
I'll say this too. This version seems a little bit less likely to trigger like instant claustrophobia.
Yeah. You got some
Where,
space.
like,
You can get
You
your
got a
arms
little
out.
room. You got a little.
Yeah.
You got your hands are out.
Yeah.
She's on the phone. Do you see what I mean? Like they
Can't
they
take a
were
phone
like,
into
hey,
a sauna. It's gonna get all steamed.
You can't. And also your head isn't in there, so you have to look down at it from above.
I don't know. How you
Imagine
do
it's
it.
like
I
a
don't think-
sauna. You can get work done, which is
What
a
if they
dream for
put
a lot of
little
us
wheels?
who aren't movie Russian gangsters.
What if they put little wheels on this thing and you could control it with an app on your phone?
Oh
You
my
could just
God.
always be in a sauna and just zipping around all day.
move.
Had this one-star review from Michael, not as depicted. It has plastics tubing to support the frame, which is cumbersome. Takes a long time to heat up, and steam is limited, even on the highest setting. The folding chair is not designed for Americans and clumsy, but it does do the job, and you can experience a mediocre, quote, sweat.
Oh,
Sorry, Michael. I didn't.
Damn.
It's not designed
Michael,
for
I understand. Like, I think
Michael, I
I'm
get
picking
it.
up what you're putting down about
yeah,
the
yeah.
design for
I
Americans.
appreciate the
I feel ya.
perspective, Michael.
I had my
Removed
doubts
from
about
cart.
that folding chair myself.
We got a great review here for this. Oh, I see. There's right. The way Wish works is that reviews are often, you can also just see reviews by store. I was very confused. I saw a review that was like, I asked for iPhone 6 headphones. And I was like, wait, did you get this sauna instead? But no, it's just the way that reviews work on Wish is silly. I'll note really quick before we move on to video games, I did check how you clean the sauna blanket. Cleaning the blanket's very easy. We recommend using an antibacterial wipe after every use.
Wait.
Not enough. They add a homemade solution of vinegar with tea tree, lavender, or thyme essential oil works great too. I feel like I don't want a sort of like kitchen remedy to clean out my $500 blanket from the company. I think that's,
Did you see who
you might
sells
be
this
right
thing?
that that's enough. The what thing?
The
Sorry.
portable personal sauna.
It's from Games Carts.
Games
Oh,
carts.
games-
What's
Games
Games
carts?
Don't know. But why
Maybe
is
that's a
something called
defunct import
games
business.
carts?
Games carts. What else do they sell? Wish is wild. I've not like gone down the Wish rabbit hole very often.
Is
But-
this a
Games
place
Carts
that like
also sells-
promises to sell you like expensive things for cheap? Isn't that the whole pitch
Yes.
of Wish? There's a I might have the wrong YouTube channel. I think it was what's one of the big tech ones, Linus Tech Tips. Like he does
Yeah,
a lot
sure.
of. Yeah, I think that's it. Anyway, I want to say it's him that did it, but they built a PC based on only parts they bought from Wish, and it was just like a complete fucking nightmare. Because I guess what constantly happens is you'll buy something and it's not even close to what they're like claiming that you're selling.
Damn it, I'm really pissed now we missed the opportunity to get Emmanuel hooked on trying to find a 3080 on Wish. That would have been like, I would have been like, man, hey, why don't you come back on the pod this week and let us know how that Wish PC is coming together? Hey, you got that 3080 yet?
I mean, we could find some other very funny way to make Emmanuel waste money. Yeah.
So-
Okay. Wait. Why? I'm just gonna drop an image in here, and then we're gonna move on.
All right.
Someone describe what I'm looking at.
So that is a chainsaw. In the upper left of the image is the Hot Wheels icon with the word "hot" written on it.
That's right where my eyes went.
It's a 20-inch chainsaw with the blade phallically thrusting toward you, the viewer, and on the flat of the blade, Kuchir. spelled the way you would imagine if it was imagine the more troubling spelling of that. And there you go.
Drop another E in there. $129 right on Wish. There you go.
Damn.
4 reviews, not enough reviews. Just what I ordered. Says RDC.
I mean, maybe he just wanted a
cornball
gag
of logging.
gift.
Yeah. Just what I fucking needed. All right. We should talk about video games now. Otherwise, we're just gonna look on the internet for the next 3 hours. How's everyone? Did anyone play anything? What's going on? Rob, can we just jump right into the conversation we were having right before? There's probably bigger games to talk about, but I just want to get this one off our chest.
Yeah.
Because I think it's pretty cool.
Hey, good news, everybody. Austin found another card game. Card-driven tactics game.
Found another fucking tactical deck builder. Actually, the tactical part is the thing that kind of makes it unique, right? Trials
Steam
of Fire.
is your forest, and good tactical deck builders are our truffles.
Yes. And this one seems pretty good. I messaged Cado and Rob late last night. I said something very goofy. Like, got a real one here, boys.
Yeah.
But it's good. It's called Trials of Fire, a name I'm repeating because both Cado and Rob today called it Trials by Fire because that's a phrase, and Trials of Fire isn't, and it's easy to forget it. But Trials of Fire is a tactical deck builder. If you heard us talk about Slay the Spire, where over the course of a roguelike style mini campaign thing, when I say mini, I mean like a couple of hours of a run, you are going from some very basic abilities and cards to some stuff that's a little bit more complex than that, building out strategies for your characters. And I say characters in this sense, or in this game, because instead of having a single character, you have a trio. And instead of the battles taking place in a kind of like left side of the screen, right side of the screen thing, or even a Gordian Quest style like rows system, it's like a big open, it's like a hex map basically.
It's a little bit of Heroes of Might and Magic, like tiny little hex dance floor.
They're looking at this game, browsing past this game on Steam. I did the thing that I often do, which is I go, damn, that looks like something I would almost really like, which is frustrating often. It happened to me recently with another game called Eratus, I want to say it was called. Is that the name of that? No, not Eratus. Ooh. But also Eratus is one of these things, Iratus. That's like, Eratus looks like a Darkest Dungeon, but like grimdark and edgy. But there was another tactics game that came out tactical roguelike that came out recently. I was like, damn, this looks like something I would almost like a lot. But there were a lot of signs of things that I thought would maybe put me off. I'm not big on sword and sorcery style fantasy, which this very much is. This is very Conan the Barbarian vibes. This is very like sun-scorched earth. You know, the peoples of the world have been torn asunder. Everyone is like just hard scrabble living. And I don't have a hatred of that. It's just not a thing that I have a lot of like deep connection with. Mm-hmm. Very, very, again, like Conan the Barbarian vibes. I tend to like my tactical stuff to have 3D representations of characters and not just little tokens, not just little like chips. It's fine when I'm playing a real tactics, like a board game thing, but when I'm playing a video game, I'm like, I want to see the characters. And in general, it's often the case that like something that a lot of tactics and a lot of like deck builder roguelike type blends can get overcomplicated. It's one of the reasons why I think Slay the Spire is so smart, is like it knows exactly the thing it's doing, and it's doing that one thing as close to perfection as it can be. And so I went into this being ready to be disappointed, and now I have 7 hours in it. So I discovered it like yesterday afternoon, and it just absolutely consumed me. You have 3 characters. You are in a kind of an adventuring party. The opening vibe okay, I guess there's like a big run version of it where you're like trying to track down the leader of your like town in this big open world map, going from tile to tile, interacting with various marks on the map that can turn into fights, can turn into you have a 25% chance to get loot or a 75% chance to get hurt. Do you want to try to get the loot? Type events, things like that. Towns where you can resupply, because this is a game where as you're moving around, your party is like slowly getting more and more tired, and you need to rest it at certain intervals. And then getting into these fights. which are driven by the decks of cards that each of your characters have, which are made up both of a kind of core deck, which improves as you level up, but also whatever equipment they have equipped to them. So it's also kind of a loot game where you can like get a high end drop and be like, oh my god, this changes my build completely, which is kind of fun. Especially it's something that I think a lot of roguelites need to hit if they're going to make it a fun game to return to over and over again, is that sense of like finding a build as you play. And then the most important thing about it is it just feels and looks really fucking good. The whole presentation is this book that is open in front of you. You're kind of zoomed in on it, and when you're moving around the map, it's like at the top of the page, it tells you what day it is and how much food supply you have and how much money you have. On the left, there are like bookmarks that are your characters. They're like sticking out that have like, here's your character's portrait, and they have how much health they have. And then on the map is like the bulk of the page. And it's kind of like a map of, again, a wasteland, a fantasy wasteland, and you're exploring and going to various question marks. And then you get into a fight and it fucking zooms in a really slick way into an arena that always feels more like substantive than I think it will. I've played so many like hex tactics games in this sort of small one screen variety that have tried to present a sense of like there are obstacles on the map in some ways to create some sense of geography that just don't do it. But every time I get into a fight in this game, I feel like there's a really interesting choke point somewhere, or line of sight is handled really well. And then you start moving cards around and making these guys like shoot at each other and do all the stuff that you do in a tactics game. And it all just feels good. It has that Hearthstone feeling of like weightiness, of like, oh, they figured out how to make these digital cards and digital tokens feel like they have some degree of heft to them, which is a difficult thing to do because otherwise we would see it more often. And the whole thing ends up just being really charming and really like consuming. Like I really liked the fact that, and I said this, I'm going to finish this one thought from before and I'll pass the mic. And on top of the main quest that is like, seems like a longer thing, you also unlock and even start with 2 shorter quests that straight up say like, hey, this is a 90-minute to 2 hour long quest in which you're going to go off and find a water stone. It's like Fallout, the Fallout 1, where you got to go repair your town's water chip thing, except in a fantasy setting. And it's like, that's how long this is. It's a 3-step quest. You have to get to 3 different points on the map. You can go do side stuff if you want to, but that's gonna extend your time a little bit. But that's about how long this is expecting this should be. And the fact that they have those little breakout quests is really cool for this style of game. So yeah, I'm just, it's one of those things that was like, I found it on a Sunday and I'm completely charmed by it by that night. Rob and Cado, I know you both dipped into it at least.
Yeah, I've been really enjoying the because when you say tactics, right, there's a thought in people's minds like, okay, so each character probably has action points or something to that point, but the way that this game deals with your kind of like mana pool, so to speak, is that there's cards that will give you it passively, but you basically, whenever you draw for each turn, you can recycle one of those cards for like 1 mana point. And that's from all 3 of your characters. So you can end up with turns where one character is like, I'm just going to chill back and like give you all points so you can blow off your like really tough spells. Also, you can, instead of using that mana point to cast spells, you can use it to move that character if you don't have any movement cards, or if you leave it till the end, it'll give you 2 defense when you turn over the turn. It's just like there's so many options of like
and it should be confusing because it's a lot.
Yeah.
But there's a really sharp tutorial up top that like walks you through that stuff in a way that did not confuse me. Yeah.
It's great, and like it just, it feels like a lot of times I feel like card games will end up playing in the like, you have some good cards in there, but you drew a bad hand, and then it's like, okay, you have to kind of make do with just playing these cards the best you can for this turn. It's maybe a kind of a meh turn, but this allows you to like kind of shift resources to where your better cards are, or just like set yourself up with some defense, which defense carries over turn to turn too. So it's never really a waste to like get 2 defense, and then just like that character has 2 defenses until they get hit. So, you know, like that's great. It's just like a really flexible system for like, you know, setting yourself up for later turns, even if you didn't. Your hand is like, oh, this is a close range thing, but those people are a little far. Also, you know, like
you can flip your hand. You can take
you can
a
also
mulligan
just
on
like
your hand
totally
multiple times. Once you start getting good gear, it's tied to how good your gear is. As your gear improves, you can flip through your hand more often, or you can like kind of redraw a hand. Or even just a couple of cards from your 3-card hand, or even if you've saved a card from the previous thing, a 4-card hand, right?
Right.
It's wild, the sort of trickiness around that stuff. That it's the thing that's wild is that I've been playing this game for a day and understand it enough to think about those things in a way that I think I wouldn't traditionally this soon.
Yeah, it already seems really nicely balanced as far as these like tensions that you're dealing with in your turn, where usually it's not hard for me to find the willpower points to cast something powerful, but I'm often like up against it where I'm like, okay, I'm gonna have to forego some things I want to do on this turn.
Yeah.
But it doesn't feel overly hamstringing either. Like that can be if everything cool feels like it's just too difficult to access, and a lot of a game involves taking a knee to basically charge up to do it. That's also kind of unengaging. A lot of just from this game's early state, a lot of these things are in a good place where like I've got a lot of interesting options on the board each turn, and I can do a lot of cool things. I can't do every thought that crosses my mind. The other thing is that just in terms of the way movement works, Austin, you were talking about how it always feels like there's an interesting choke point. I agree with that. I think also there is just enough maneuvering. It's not a big board. Like I used Heroes of Might and Magic as an example, but like this is like a quarter of that board size or a third. It's a small board, but that also means that like, for instance, your archer has some abilities that need clear line of sight, or they will just fire through things. And you'd be surprised how often obstructions kind of interpose themselves. Like, oh, damn it. Like my warrior got in the way. You're often kind of incentivized to be like, I need to find a way to line these fuckers up so I can skewer them. Your wizard, there's a lot of AoE spells that are like, I just need to set this thing up. I know I've got this like diamond pattern, like flame blast in my hand. I just need to set this up so that like they're all in the diamond and none of my people are. And so like, it's cool how already in this early state, things like that fit together. Oh, I also want to call it this. They have made leveling up so fucking fun.
Oh, it's so cool, dude.
This is leveling up is where you get to like clean up that deck a little bit. And so you start with a lot of boring early level powers. And each time you level up a character, it's like, okay, you want to get one of those guys out of here and bring in a more advanced spell, but you can't bring in everything. So like, here's your menu. Like what here looks most important. And so
what are you going to replace? Are you going to replace, like a lot of them kind of clearly map. So like, for instance, I would say there's an archer there's an archer attack or whatever the hunter, your starting like ranged unit is. That is one of the default ones is just power shot. It does 2 damage. Or 3 damage, I want to say maybe. And a nice thing about the archer or the hunter is each class has a passive ability, and the hunter's is the first attack each turn just does double damage. And so that's 6 damage. That's not bad. But there's one of the opening ones that you can get to replace it as you level them up is a one that just says if you're next to an obstacle, do an extra, like it's like do the same damage but also get defense added to you. And it's easy to be like, okay, well, I can just replace one of those power shots with my cover shot instead. But there's also times when you're like, you know what? What if I just get rid of one of the melee abilities that this guy has on him, because I want to really focus him down on being ranged, and I'll keep one of these basic ranged attacks, but this means I'll slide him more in that direction, which means that when I start giving him a equipment that's like a kind of a temporary passive buff called a power that triggers whenever he does a range attack, there's a higher chance of that popping off or me getting a range attack to use that with. And those decisions are just really fun.
Yeah, it's also great how you can, it's not just leveling, but also equipment gives you cards too. Like there's different, like lots of different avenues for switching up the deck.
I feel like this is the most like impulsive deck builder person take, but it's the rare deck builder that I don't feel bad wanting to keep adding cards to my deck via equipment. And like it doesn't seem like you can overdo it. Every character has a certain number of equipment slots. There are only a certain number of raw cards you can put in your deck.
Yeah.
So you don't get that thing where you're like, damn it, am I fucking stuffing this deck with too many cards? Am I breaking this build?
And part of it is absolutely the setup with being able to recycle things, right? Like sometimes you just need to cycle things and you'll have something on one of your characters that is worth recycling for. So it like feels really great to have those options.
It passed the core test for me, which is I was telling you guys about this last night, but I hit a point. I was doing one of the shorter like quest things, which was the go find this water gem and recharge it with magic or whatever. And on the way, I took on an optional boss, which was like this giant, like, sandworm type creature that took up multiple tiles, which is really cool.
Nice.
It was like took up 3 consecutive tiles and it could kind of like curl around in interesting ways. And it was just this huge bag of HP. Your characters they're not particularly tough in this game. You can get armor that gives you resistance and that gives you and you can obviously defend to get starting or to get more resistance and defense and stuff. But your characters have like 10 to 15 HP to start with. This worm had 150, 130 or something like that. I was 115, but like still over 100. And I was like, well, this is going to fucking suck. And it was scary at first, but I eventually like managed to chip it down and take advantage of the fact that it had 3 places that you could hit it on, which meant that you could do AoE damage to it and hit it multiple times and do the thing where you kind of corner it to some degree and get multiple hits in on it from characters, that has like a sort of follow-up attack mechanic that's kind of core to using melee characters. And I managed to win that fight pretty handily. And I was like, all right, cool. Let me go do this other, like the next story fight. And it was against one like lich. And I was like, all right, I just beat this fucking 115 point worm. What's this 40 point lich going to do to me? Get the fuck out of here. I'm going to roll this motherfucker. No, absolutely not. Beat the shit out of me. Beat the brakes off me. I just could not close in. Like this character just had all this movement stuff that could either move her away from me or move my units away from her or apart from each other. So they were always isolated. They couldn't do combo attacks. They couldn't, I couldn't like corner her for long enough to put the damage on. And then it just bit by bit, just like beat the shit out of me, just like chop me down. And that felt good. That like going into a fight in a tactics game overconfident and then being put in your place by like a part of the system you have not learned to counter yet felt really good. And I could have invested in more range attacks in that build, more maneuverability stuff. There's a lot of like cards that are just like move 4 spaces and gain a defense or gain more willpower, which is like the mana. And I had underinvested in that stuff. And I paid for it. And I like in a game like this, losing for a reason. It's one of the reasons I like roguelikes in general. The sense of like a good roguelike makes me go, fuck, if I just built this way a little bit differently, or even if I'd used my build a little bit differently. And so having one of those experiences this early on in this game was good.
Yeah, so I think for me, one thing I do want to flag here is that I'm torn about the overall presentation of this game. Like, I think the transition from the main map to the battle is amazing. That animation of like the 3D battle space coming together, the characters' fate like breaking out into their like heavy, satisfying like tokens. That's cool. I think Austin, to your point about like the setting not generally doing it for you, I think one reason it doesn't usually do it for me is I find the shit ugly. Like, you know what looks monotonous? A post-apocalyptic desert wasteland that's like always Conan or Mad Max looking shit. And the overworld on this is pretty brown. And like right now there's not a lot of flavor on that map in terms of like locations. There's no sense of like, ooh, what intriguing event might await me at this like question mark that's floating above some random ruins. And so I think to a degree, like that is keeping me back from it. What's interesting is that if you hover over a lot of the flavor text, like defining creature names, character names, you get these tooltip pop-outs that like break out like a excerpt from a lore page or player's guide or something. And like very, very D&D, like 3rd, 4th edition style sketches of characters that also look a lot like concept art. That's real good. And like that stuff
is cool. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, make the game live up to that. Like if you've drawn these cool little rat guys, the ratlings, who look pretty chill, like they're bookish rat people who just seem to hang. And I'm like, why would I be an enemy of the ratling? I want to be one of the
Let me
ratlings.
tell you, Rob, I did in fact unlock a ratling to play as, and he whips. He's an alchemist. And he's great, and I can't wait for y'all to unlock him. He might be my favorite character to play as now. He's like the classic rats rule. That's just true. He's like the classic chaos alchemist archetype of like, he has cards that are like, use this card and get one of 4 cards in your deck that you can play in your hand immediately, that you can play whatever. Lots of big AoE, throwing flasks to do AoE damage and effects. I've also unlocked one of the hybrids, which is a word I don't love. Hybrid has like a really weird eugenics codification around it, but these are like demon people hybrids or something. They got big horns. And she's like a melee support class. She's like has a bunch of inspirational like moves that give you inspiration and like leadership buffs and stuff.
You know what's kind of going on here, I think? The world has Pyre vibes.
Oh,
like,
100%.
The look of it though on the map looks like
character
shit.
art. The character art is also just really good, but the map does not sell you the cool. You're right. Pyre is a great touchstone for what the lore and everywhere the individual character art.
Pyre, you would go places and it's like, yeah, it's a fucked up wasteland out here. And it would still, you'd be like, oh yeah, wow, there's like wild magics out here that have like definitely trashed things, but it also looks very pretty. Whereas here, and I want to be clear, the overall map does look work in progress to me in a way that like, you know how Mountain Blade that just turned out to be like, that's just how the game looks. But Mountain Blade, that map is just kind of like crude and functional and like there's not a lot of personality to it. There's a lot of that happening here. I'm hoping that like as this game evolves,
I would love for it to get like a map rework.
Yeah.
Because the tactical maps have a lot of flavor and color and weird textures. Like I've been in temples and stuff that have incredible like mosaic work in them and shit. Like whereas none of that on the overworld map, 100%. Cado, you also had something.
Well, I just had a question about. So, what do you end up carrying stuff between runs? Because I'm just still in the middle of my first. Run.
You do the classic thing of unlocking more things to unlock on your future runs, right? Where as your characters level up, there's like a soul level for each character class, and those each give you bonuses that are like not bonuses, but unlock other cards you can add to your deck and unlock characters. There's 9 classes. You start with 3. Cool. So there's lots of class and new quests, which are those little mini bite-sized ones, right? So like I had one that I was doing last night that does not give you any direction. It just says you're trying to build this thing, go out in the world, try to find the pieces for it. And that was like a fun twist on it. So that is Trials of Fire. I think it's pretty good. Again, I'm 7 hours in, which is like enough to be like I'm having a really good time, but it's not enough to be like I think this is well balanced or something, because tactics and deck building games are so long in terms of there's so much work you have to do to know where does it break down,
right?
But I'm gonna keep playing it because it completely consumed my Sunday. Patrick, do you want to be back in this conversation? Do you want to talk about something?
What hell? Yep. Can I?
Do you want to go back to the blankets, or do you want to talk about video game stuff?
I just want to read. So, do you remember the game El Shaddai?
Yeah, of course.
Don't say fucking of course. Like nobody played that game.
Shane Bettenhausen did a lot of
Shane
work.
Bettenhausen's first project post one up.
Yeah, of course.
Working for Ignition Entertainment. Classic. Everyone knows.
Everyone
Do some trivia.
Everyone remembers 1UP shut down. Then you said, you know what? Even though I'm at a job that's paying my bills and that I hate, I'm going to finally push to get into games journalism because I always wanted to work for EGM or 1UP, and now it's never going to happen. Then you get a weird email a couple years later from someone who says they work for EGM, and you're like, this sounds like an opportunity. And then you hear better. And you back the fuck off.
Anyway, so El Shaddai, which is a really unique looking game that came out for the PS3 years and years ago. That was like loosely based on like the Book of Enoch, I think is like
that's correct.
The religious text. And I think loosely based is a fair interpretation. I didn't play it, but I heard it was like really stylish, like an okay like action game,
sort of act like character action-y type.
Yeah,
thing,
but like the
right?
visuals and story were like so otherworldly that it was like worth kind of slogging through. I never did. I definitely have a copy. Like I bought one at a GameStop at some point. Like I have it in a box in my house. There's a Steam version coming out at some point this month. And
cool.
I'd always heard that the creator was kind of interesting, and so I was like, all right, I'll fire off a couple questions and see what I get back. And this whole interview, okay, there was all right. Okay. So I set off some questions, and Japanese interviews are a crapshoot. Like you always want to do them in person because you just don't know the personality of the creator and what is the relationship with the translator going to be. And
sure,
you will often find midstream when you're doing it. And this is not even just, I only say Japanese because that tends to be the kinds of creators we're talking to, but this is true of any interview you're doing with the translator. You want to figure out like what kind of questions do I need to ask to get good answers, and this is based on like how are they being translated, and also what is the attitude of the creator. And that's that's easier to do in person, even though you may only have like 15 minutes at an E3. You can spend the first like 2 questions like these are the throwaways. I just need to know how they're answering, and then I'll figure out what I'm going to do with my remaining time. Email is just just like you have no control over it. You're just crossing your fingers that like anything useful.
Because you're sending a bunch
back.
of questions at once in general. You're not
and you're being scattershot. So like you're asked like different styles of questions.
Yeah.
You're asking them in different ways. Some of them you'll find I felt like you want to be specific, and other times you want to be open ended. Sometimes you give someone open ended, and all you get is a 1-sentence talking point in response. Other times it's like if you give something very specific. I like one of the reliable questions I've had over the last couple of years. Like, tell me something in your game that you're really proud of that people like wouldn't notice in a trailer, and then you always get something like really interesting.
Yeah,
anyway, that's just a long preamble to this. I sent off some questions for this upcoming Steam version of El Shaddai, and I had forgotten about it. And I got this email back, and the PR person was like, tell me if these aren't good enough. And I was like, what is that? What?
Uh-oh. Okay.
And I was like, well, that, whatever the Leonardo DiCaprio gif, I was interested and now I'm intrigued. Open it. And they were all like 6-word answers. Like just the shortest.
Were they good words?
Yes. And no. So I'll get there. There's one I want to read because there's a lot going on in the answer. But on some level, I felt bad. I was like, it seems a little weird to be like, look, if this is what the creator wrote, like it's an email interview. These sometimes go. I was like, even the answers are like eccentric enough. They're like, okay, I'll do a screenshot of this and like it'll get some interest. But they like wrote in the email like, hey, if you'd like us to send it back, we can't ask them to like elaborate a little bit. And I was like, oh, well, what's the harm? Sure, ask them to elaborate. We'll see what comes back. And so what ended up happening, I just got the document back a little while ago. It was one of the things I was reading while you guys were talking cards. And it's like they kept all the original answers, and those were like under a bullet point. And then there's just like another paragraph underneath. It's just like a very funny formatting style. But I wrote, what was your impression of religion prior to making El Shaddai, and how has that changed over the years? Has growing older given you a different perspective? Had great success asking someone like Yokotaro, like, do you believe in God? And like, right. You get a great answer response. And so, I should say the creator. Sawaki Takayasu. I hope I got that. That sounds right.
That's right.
And I am not interested in a specific religion, but I basically think that my real life will start after death. It seems like killing time bound by gravity and breathing for me to live in this world. In that sense, if I can die comfortably without pain, I would like to die soon. To tell the truth, such an idea appears in Enoch's character, and Lucifer's words also have such a message. It's like, damn. Bro, that's an answer. All right.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you for committing to saying some shit you really believe.
Yeah, that was like that you were not I wish sure. Thank you.
The thing I remember about that game is, and this again is probably because I was following Shane on Twitter, is that Lucifer is in that game and has nice jeans. That's the thing I remember is his jeans. He wears really good jeans. I think they got a special co-branding thing.
And I just remember seeing that game constantly because the PAX or PAXs where Shane was promoting it, they had gotten a booth. If you've never been to, this is at PAX West, I'm thinking. You know how like when you go to PAX West and you're going into the main convention hall, there's a lot of people selling like board game tables and stuff like that in the center. And then on the side, there are some like often shops. People are selling like t-shirts and stuff, but there are a couple like game companies, and like Ignition had one of those. And so they're like, every time I'm walking to and from the like convention area, it's like, I can't miss Shane sitting around. It's like, do I make eye contact with him this time? Like I've walked past this way a bunch of times. I love Shane, but,
I love Shane, and I also love events where you get to see people, and I miss them. And I would like to.
There was a
stupid games event. So bad.
I think I recently said to you also in front of some other people, I was like, you know what? Fucking, let's just go to a Call of Duty review event. Let's go. Like, I would love nothing more than to like play 4 hours of a single player campaign and then be forced to go have like a big awkward dinner with a bunch of people I don't know that well. So you sit with like the one person you do know and just chat with them the whole time. Like, that sounds fucking great. Like, let's.
I would kill for the best part about Judges Week, when I used to do Judges Week stuff, was like the camaraderie between all the different people in at Judges Week, going from event to event, being like, you think they're just gonna have sliders again? You think that's what we already had sliders at 11 a.m., which is too early for sliders in my opinion. And now it's I want breakfast. If Rob is like, I'm pro slider all the time. Rob's not.
What about some breakfast sliders?
Yeah, I could do a breakfast slider, but I don't want a
burger?
A greasy burger slider, which is like what those were often at these events.
I think it's a cumulative thing, right? Where it's like, if it's like day 2, I have been eating sliders 3 out of 4 meals a day. It's like you see that morning slider and you're like, I can't no more.
I
please,
can't do
sir.
A fucking slider.
Please, sir.
Can you combine them?
Yeah. Y'all gotta come on, just like mixed fruit. I'm begging you. But that experience is, it is such a silly thing because we have done our best, I think, to be skeptical of the kind of big, the big events where publishers are trying to pretend that they are the whole of the industry, and get all of your attention. But the sociality,
like, look at the
exactly.
the rise and fall and the COVID induced killing. I mean, I know E3 will be around this year in theory, but it's it's going to be a shadow. I don't think it's really coming back after this, but. There is some, like, I definitely miss the way that E3 forced everyone to get together in, like, the, like, friends and family I have in the gaming world. Like, that's what I liked about E3. Like, all the other stuff is.
I am also someone who came alive under that pressure to some degree. I don't want that to be my job all the time, but I like doing 1 week of work a year that was at that pace where I was just like, I'm booked. My brain can't think about anything but work for a week. Depression, fucking be gone. I have to. There's no time right now for me to, like, everything is booked. Everything is it takes a month of scheduling to even fill that much time with things to do. And obviously there's always ways to improve it. And I think we were pretty good by the last one that we went to, of like not killing ourselves in terms of overscheduling
We solved
things and overbooking,
and it died. Like we
and then it died. You're right. We got a little house. We did a bunch of home cooking.
Yeah.
It was really, we brought friends over to hang out.
The last meeting the last travel I did was to come out to see Rob and have a meeting where it's like, well, Austin, we're not even sure if he's going to come to E3. Like, let's sketch out a couple different plans of what E3 could be. Like that was like, okay, let's. I think we literally left like we should come up with a pitch deck so that marketing can understand what E3 is and maybe actually get it sponsored this year. And then like 3 weeks later, the world shut down. So that mattered.
Yep, that sounds right. Fuck. Anyway, we should take a break and then we can come back and talk about some other stuff. Patrick, I threw to you to talk about a video game that you played.
Yeah, I got some.
Like
I just I was looking at this doc and was just like, I have to share this quote before I lose it.
Yeah, fair. All right, we will be right back. All right, we're back. What is where do we want to jump back in?
You want to just talk about crying in front of a computer monitor instead? It was just like a hard.
Yes.
Sure.
Well, last week I mentioned Before Your Eyes, the game in which you blink in order to sort of interact with the world or progress scenes, and I believe I had mentioned like, oh, it's pretty short. I kind of paused before I feel like what is picking up the end game. And I think I also mentioned that, oh, it's like really neat. And I'm glad that they like approached it from this way, but felt myself sort of like emotionally disconnected. Maybe it just didn't land. Maybe that is the blinking stuff. You know, I don't know. You know, because I watched the trailer and that's what got me interested. And I was like, oh, this game is gonna do a number on me. And then it didn't really happen, but I still found it to be interesting. Well, then I played like the last 45 minutes, which, and I guess I would, you know, like in the vaguest of terms, like, you know, I would put a heads up for like parents, but I don't think this is like an exploitative story, but like there are profoundly sad elements to it, and so.
Also, if you want to skip ahead, I'm sure there's timestamps in the description. So
I'm not gonna talk about what happens.
Okay.
And if for some reason you're interested in this and like you want me to just spoil it for you, like just send me a DM. I'm sure there are also walkthroughs, but if you just want me to like give you a broad sketch of what happens in the story, I will just say there is a perspective shift in the storytelling that happens in the last 45 minutes that is like all of a sudden. It completely changed the way I looked at the way you look at the first hour of the game in a way that like, now I understand there is a specific reason I had like the story had they knew where they were going. Like when I was like, oh, maybe I'm just disconnected emotionally because of the mechanic. It's like, no, there is an explanation for everything. They have this really tidy little story, and I don't. There is a thing that happened, like it all builds to this one moment that is really emotional, and I was a wreck while watching it, and it was fascinating, and I'll be writing about it because it really struck me at the time, was that this is a game that, for the most part, is like very restrained on like what happens when you blink, right? Like the metronome comes up and that progresses you forward. There's an icon on the screen, you blink at it, using your mouse to progress forward. There is a thing that happens in the final sequence where it's almost like they realize, like they know, they're like, all right, this is the gut punch. Like you're probably going to be like reasonably upset while you're like watching this scene. And I'm like crying, which is then prompting an enormous amount of blinking.
Right.
And they account for that in what is occurring on the screen. Like without explaining, like I don't want to even give away sort of like the storytelling, not trick, but like what they're playing with. But it's really fascinating. It's really cool. Like once I realized what was happening, that was just like made me cry even more because it was like really touching way to like finish the story. And it ended up making the elevating what I thought was an interesting, like kind of mechanical tech experiment into something that I thought was like really special and interesting. And I would give, a broad like content warning to parents. I think in stories that, use your imagination of, what that can often involve. If you find yourself moved by those stories, like even though I have 2 children, I don't like shy away from that stuff. I find them to be cathartic and emotionally interesting. Know that going into it, but I found it to be something really special and not just like an interesting way to use a webcam to interact with a digital space. So
right, awesome.
Yeah,
I'm glad that turned out. I'm glad that turned out to be like a thing that because what you described to me last week or to us last week was like felt like it was like 80% of the puzzle,
Yeah,
and so.
And when the 20% left clicks in, like the whole puzzle makes sense. And again, had I had more time when I first played it, I probably would have done it from start to finish. But it actually was kind of interesting to have stopped it at this very obvious, like we're about to begin the concluding sequence. Go back into that and just like get walloped in a way I did not expect at all. So kudos to that game. And then I had to go up and like have lunch. I was like, "Are you okay?" I was like, "Wow,
you good?"
I mean, yeah, I am. I'm fine.
God,
I had a very emotional reaction to a video game downstairs.
Speaking of checking up on things, Rob, have you kept digging into Judgment?
Yeah, I have. I am remembering why I ended up falling off Yakuza, which is like the combat gets a little tiring.
There's a lot of it.
Like I'm just walking around and it's like, here's a bunch of thugs. And for one thing, I don't know, for some reason, I think because Yakuza is funnier about it in some ways. Like you're Yakuza, of course there's always other Yakuza who want to kick your ass. But like in Judgment, it's just like, I'm just an ex-lawyer.
I'm just a dude.
Yeah. And you just like walk too close to a group of 3 dudes and they're like, time to kick this guy's ass. But then they're useless enemies. You just like hit square like 20 times and you move on. And that doesn't help train you at all for the real fights.
Right.
Where like you do need to know the combos, which are really poorly explained because the controls aren't great for these fights, in my opinion. Like I do not think it's a well thought out combat system.
Mm-hmm.
And it really wants you to engage that combat system a lot. And a lot of the like key points in the chapters are like, here's a guy who's just he's got a big fuck you up ability that's going to stun lock you for like 3-4 minutes. And you just watch your hit bar just get devastated, your hit points bar get devastated. And then you just try and never have that happen again. So like, I'm remembering what drives me off these games. On the other hand, I still really like it. I'm on the trail of a serial killer, and like I enjoy doing the PI bullshit where it's like, oh man, tracking a cheating husband. Gotta follow him, but also it's so corny. Like
it's very
you're tailing people by like bouncing from cover to cover and like sort of peering out from behind obstructions. You're the most
That's just what PIs
guy.
do, Rob. That's what it is to be a detective.
Yeah.
You take your phone camera out and look for clues sometimes. And sometimes you find a cat. And that's like an exciting moment in your day.
Yeah, it's God, some of the side characters too. Yeah, there's guys like, oh, help me find the kitties. And I'm like, I don't know that I love some of these side characters. I don't know that. Like,
is there a hacker you meet in that game, or am I thinking?
Yeah, your homie's a hacker. Like you're
is it like the hacker who like hangs in like the net cafe, basically the land center?
And then there's kind of a what's the term for this? I don't know. There's some sort of like parkour crime group doing crimes.
Oh right, there's a parkour crime group.
Yeah,
that's true.
Sure. Classic.
What are they called? They have a funny name, don't they?
Yeah, I can't remember. It's that, but that's also a goofy touch that's happening here. And so the game is starting to open up. I've gotten through the first trial, and the shape of the overall case is coming into focus. I think maybe what I'm encountering a bit is, so we're all familiar with the conventions of anime.
Yeah.
And we're all familiar with like how even more serious anime will often have like the goof off episode, or they will like do like a run of like main plot type stories, or like a case of the week type story, and then it's like time to explore goofy side character, and the whole vibe of the show shifts. And that's something you just learn to roll with, where it's like there is a different show within a show that unfolds sometimes. And we even talked a little bit about this with Ava, where it's a really heavy, like, traumatic series in a lot of places. Even there, you'll have kind of goofy teen shit happening for an episode. I think what's weird about Yakuza is I think it follows that vibe, and so does Judgment. And Judgment is even trying to be a more serious, like, weekly network TV crime procedural. It's kind of, there's like mentalist vibes to a degree.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
But the problem is it's not like it can hive off or silo off the goofy slice of life comedy shit. And so the two things live uncomfortably side by side, where you are just trying to get to the next, you're just walking through Kamurocho to the next part of the main plot. And it's like serious. It's like, your relationships with your friends are fraught. You are trying to prove yourself to the old law office you used to work. You're pretty sure you have yet again helped someone unjustly escape prosecution for being an accomplice to a slaying. And then just trying to get across town, you'll be pulled into, here's a quirky side character. And that character, that energy they bring would exist in a separate delineated space, I think, in the TV counterpart to this.
Right.
But you whip it into the confines of a Yakuza game, and there's a whiplashy experience of going through these games. And I'm rolling with it. I think more it's the mechanical stuff that's probably wearing on me more. But it's not just swings in tone, it's swings in writing quality and characterization too. Like, goofy side characters in this tend to be real goofy, real broad, and not terribly interesting. And I'm just like, I guess I'm gonna help them because this character has a meter next to them, and I want to fill that meter because I'm broken.
That's part of being a good detective, a big detective. That's what I was going to say. I'll commit to it. It's part of being a big detective is filling up the meters for all your clients and making them like you.
Long Goodbye is driven by the fact that Marlowe just has a really full friendship meter, and it slowly drains out over the course of the novel.
That's accurate. That's true. It's how you mechanize it, 100%.
Oh my god! Altman's Long Goodbye does have anime adaptation aspects to it.
I thought you were going to say it does have an anime adaptation out there. It could.
I could easily imagine it.
I would watch it. Someone should just make that. Listen, I've been watching a lot of Ghost in the Shell. I'm in anime detective mode right now. I could do some more of it.
It's actually the basis for Detective Conan.
Oh, okay. Yeah, sure. Of course. Very similar things. Speaking of things,
Rob, why don't you just play that game on easier difficulty setting and just like float through the combat?
Patrick's got it. Patrick's ding, ding, ding.
I should do that.
You could do that.
Like, then you just could do the story shit. I mean,
It's not even that, but the thing is, it's not that hard. Like, I'll do a fight twice occasionally.
I know, but it doesn't sound like you're enjoying it even when you are doing it.
But the fight exists. It's the existence of the fight that is the problem.
I agree. Yeah, yes. And I doubt even on the PC that there was like a mod that's like
no
fight
fights.
removal.
Yeah.
Turn into visual novel, please.
God, Rob, what would your sick Yakuza tattoo be if you like swiftly removed a jacket to reveal that you were in your final fighting condition? Would it be like a tiger? Would it be like a
jacket removal? It's so good.
It's so good. Is that still in Judgment? Has anyone done jacket removal yet in Judgment?
Oh, it opens. So did you not get to this part?
I got pretty far. I got like 3 or 4 chapters.
Let me just refresh your memory.
2 years ago. Yes, please.
After your character is disgraced by being too awesome at his job, which is really what it comes down to, is you kicked ass in the courtroom, and you feel bad about it because it went bad.
Yeah.
And nobody was there to tell you, like, it just goes that way sometimes. So after that, it cuts to it looks like you've fallen on hard fucking times.
Right,
And your
yes,
guy is like
okay.
looking like a vagrant on the street, like unshaven, wearing ratty windbreaker, unfashionable, like decent clothes, but like he looks a bit ratty. And he's tailing a dude, but while he's on the way, he runs into street punks.
Oh,
And they're
no.
like, hey, you homeless bum. Hey, you sack of shit, old man. How dare you run into us? We're going to kick your ass. And you guys like, hey, guys, just let it go. And they're like, no, we're going to kick your ass because we're assholes. And he's like, all right. And he flings off the windbreaker to reveal a leather windbreaker. He's wearing a leather jacket, like really similar clothes. And like his hair gets done in that process too. Like, he flings off the
reveals that he's
windbreaker.
hot, right?
Yeah.
That's the thing. He's like, I'm actually
he's
secretly a
hot.
hot boy. Yeah.
It's so good. So like he just reveals that he's like a reason, like he's just a really fashionable like 50s motorcycle like idol. He's like James Dean. Like
Right.
basically he's like, oh, I was incognito, but boom, I'm the leader of the pack.
God, you should have a motorcycle in that game, actually.
You beat guys with it.
That's true. You could beat guys. You could beat guys with your motorcycle. That is the way that this series does
Just
work.
winging Yamaha boomerang style down the block.
God.
That's my favorite part of a DMC5.
Yeah.
Yeah, fair. Anyone else want to touch on anything before we start to come towards the back end of this podcast? I say that because I don't know how much. Who knows what the end of a podcast is anymore? Patrick, you play anything else?
There's a quick shout out to I played half of a game called Say No More.
What
Because
was
it
that?
wants you to say no.
Say no more.
Say no, not like say no more, like say no
More.
more. There's an exclamation mark after the no.
I see.
That's
The
my approach
aesthetic-
to new project ideas. That's what I tell myself every week. On Sunday night, I'm like, you know what you should do, Zachney? Say no!
More.
See, Rob,
more.
this is how you can. That's I forgot to tell you that is my inbox cleanup tactic. Is I just write no and then I archive it and I just move on to the next one. There's no context. Not sure what I'm turning down. It's just no. I'm on to the next one. And it's man. So the aesthetic is really important to it, and I would best describe it as this is depending on the age of people in our audience. Incredible Crisis, a PlayStation 1 comedic game that was very WarioWare esque. Was a very Dreamcasty vibe. We're talking, it's even Dreamcast. It's like low poly models, but without the like pixelation. Like we got like full on anti-aliasing. Like it's very clean look, but with very blocky. Not even blocky because Minecraft is blocky. I feel that's when you say blocky, people think Minecraft, and this is
type of thing. This so much feels like last week. I described the game as feeling like a N64 or GameCube game you'd rent.
Yeah.
This feels like a PS1 game you would rent. That's
Yeah.
just like in that weird, like, what the fuck is this? Everything moves in really, all the animation is really like binary in terms of just
it's like my
there's no
hands are going
keyframes.
up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down.
Exactly.
When characters jump, like it's just like they just the bottle just goes into the air.
Right.
So that's the aesthetic setup. The premise of the game is you are one of 3 interns going to work for this shitty corp, and you meet your supervisor, and the supervisor's like, you need, around here we say yes, and the only interaction you start with in the game, the only interaction that actually matters is that when you hit the space bar, or what the equivalent is on, I see you post, I didn't even realize it was on Switch.
Apparently it's on Switch also.
Whatever the button is, you can say, you could say yes. When the game starts, your character has not decided how they feel about things, and so when like your roommate asks if you could help out with the rent, there's a meter at the bottom that is slowly closing, and that is the period in which you're supposed to consider an interaction, or that you can hear more of the dialogue from the characters. And he's like, hey, can you help me with the rent? And like you hit the space bar, and I thought I was gonna say yes because I was like, oh, we're gonna flip from yes to no, and instead your character just goes like just doesn't want to deal with it. It's just like I don't know how I feel about this. And
So you didn't say anything?
Doesn't you like the way it showed all that's like shown in the dialogue box is like ... It's just like the character just like not wanting to interact with this. I got the vibe that maybe this has happened before. This person is not really timely with the money, and like your character.
Oh, when you
is the
say
one
want to
that-
help with the rent, what you mean is your roommate
Help them
said,
share.
I don't have it yet.
Yeah.
You want to help me with
okay.
my rent?
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, sorry, yes, that is that.
Let me
is the
explain how it's going to
situation.
help you. I can only cover part of my share of the rent. So really, if you want to live here,
It's
And-
on you, honestly.
So you get into the corp, and you have these two interns who they're very excited. They're like, let's go. You gotta say yes to climb the ladder, yes to advance, yeah, and it's all like very heightened, goofy, like, hey, like we need you to go do some like crappy menial work, and these two interns like, yes, like let's go do it. And your supervisor right off the bat tries to set the tone of this yesing, which is, and you know what, if you have that, like you have a fancy looking lunchbox, I bet you got a fancy looking lunch in there. What if I forgot my lunch? What if I need that lunchbox? And I might ask that as your supervisor. And what are you gonna say? And then like the meter goes down, and your character goes like, like they doesn't know what they want to say yet. And then you sit down at your desk, and there is just like happens to be like this tape nearby, and you listen to it. And it's a motivational tape. I think maybe left behind by a different intern, or maybe it is divine inspiration. But you get this sort of, you get transported to this dream, like you're listening to the tape, and like it transfers you to this kind of like dream realm. And there's kind of like this wrestling figure, this big macho motivational guy who's like, actually say no to everything. And it's very funny and weird. And he teaches you your mechanic, which is that when you slap that space bar, you can say no. And if you hold the space bar, you can charge up your no and have a very powerful no that you can say to people. And so that then the game kind of kicks off from there. You don't control anything. You're not like you're not exploring this office. You're not. You are just like propelled on a path. Like a story is occurring in front of you, and like a character will come in front of you. He's like, "Get me coffee." Boom, no. And it's like, like help me with these papers. Boom, no. And then you along the way you start getting taught different techniques to try and humiliate people before you tell them no. And so in my case on the keyboard, it's like on the D-pad, it's like sarcastically laugh. And so it's like you'll hold down like left, and it's like ha 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 no. And then you just keep going. And another one is a slow clap. So it's like just a no. And then and it's all like hyperkinetic, moving really fast. Like characters are like, when you're saying no, they're like being thrown through buildings. Like it's all like very, very weird and over the top. Again, I mentioned Incredible Crisis because there was a period where you were getting a lot of like early video game comedy was like coming out of Japan, and it was games like Incredible Crisis, and a lot of these were happening in the PS1 era. Like when we talk about like that era having like some strange strains of games, like that is, and we didn't even get a bunch of those games. Like that wasn't a period when a lot of these games came over here. This game was not. I don't know where it was made. I know it was not in Japan. If someone can Google it while I continue to talk, we could shout it out. Then you get you'll get and also the laughter and clapping is how you like build up your charge meter. So you need to figure out like how you can humiliate someone that's asking you to do something ridiculous. And it's like, oh, this person doesn't like the laughing, this person doesn't like the clapping. That fills your charge meter, which then lets you do the powerful laughs. And then also you get multiple kinds of multiple kinds of no's. You have a hot no, like a no, and like a cold no, like no. And then there's a wacky no, like no. And like and then you scroll through those like 1 through 4 on the keyboard. And those don't make any difference. It's not. It's just like, what are you feeling like? What you want your no to be during chapter 4 or whatever. And there's like some really fun. Like there's definitely like a political lines like throughout this. Like there's a sequence where you're like tracking down one of your bosses, and they were in a bunch of meetings where they gave like empty platitudes, but didn't actually inform any of those people in the meeting of like, there were no like takeaways, like what they were supposed to go do to the jobs. And in one of them, you end up by just saying no, you actually prompt the group to like start a union, and they think like, oh, that's what my bosses want. Our bosses wanted us to be empowered, like to make this place better, and then you leave, and like they go to start forming a union. So there's stuff like that. There's like very strong like workers should be empowered, and like fuck the management class. It is both obvious without feeling like it's like shaking the stick at you about it. It's like it's just very funny, but it is clear it comes from a place of labor empowerment, and that is a political through line and a humor through line of the story. It seems like it's about 2 hours long. It's so limited in what you can do that I played the first half and I was like, I can feel myself tiring on the mechanic, but I'm really enjoying the story. And so what I should do is just not finish it and just like come back, do it another night, like split it up.
Right.
It's not something that necessarily lends itself to a marathon session, even though it's not particularly long. Just because again, the mechanical interactions are extremely limited on purpose. That's what they're going for. So it seems the kind of thing. It's built into discrete chapters, and it seems. I actually probably would have stopped earlier. I thought I was getting towards the end. I was like, oh, okay, I'll just play one more chapter. And then I looked at the chapter screen and I was like, oh, actually, I'm only halfway through. But yeah, it's goofy and fun and weird. And I would recommend it if you're looking. It's actually been one of the things that I usually at the end of the year, I put out a tweet on like December 1st. It's like, what did I miss? Like, unfortunately, my job means I have to largely focus on the big AAA games and fit in the other stuff where I can. What do I need to catch up on? And because there's just not been nearly as much, because I didn't care for playing Outriders, it's like, all right, like I don't really have that much. Like I have Nier Replicant, but I can't really talk about it for like another like 2 weeks. So I need other things to play, and like I've found myself spending more time with the kinds of games that I would like I keep a note of the games I play throughout the year. And then at the bottom is like games to go back to. And like that list is usually very long at the end of the year. And this year it's like I'm keeping up with more of that stuff.
Yeah, you're playing
because
them now.
there is just space for me to spend time with it in a way that otherwise I wouldn't. I mean, I don't know when I'm getting it. I expect I might have like RE8 by the end of the week, and then what I just said, like that gets blown apart. But because it actually seems like there's a bunch of games. There's actually a decent number of games coming out in the next month, even though Deathloop got delayed. It's like Returnal, Ratchet and Clank, Resident Evil 8.
I'm very curious about Returnal, as like that studio has done some really cool arcadey things. And
I feel like that's either going to be great or just like distressingly mediocre. And there's like
can't wait to find out which.
Yeah. Anyway, saying, did you find where it was
Studio
made?
Fizbin are from Germany. They're from Germany.
There you go. So, and one fun part about it is at the beginning, there's a character creator. They so you can make your exploited intern of choice, and there's like a whole full customization menu, or there's like a bunch of sort of ones they've already created, and then you get to choose your language of no, and there are multiple voices. So you want to shout no in German, in French, Japanese, like pick your choice. Like it's not even like change your language. It's like you just want to say no in a different way. Like go for it. And like it's a big list that you scroll through, and it was actually just fun to just like hear no said in a dozen different languages or whatever. So say no more. Say no more. It's very very
say
entertaining.
No more.
Say
no.
Yes. Say yes to say no more.
Oh wow, great. Thanks. Say yes. Say no more. Let's take a quick dip in the question bucket, which again has been filled with food as people continue to respond to us. Gaming at advice.com.
Do we need to set up a second email?
Maybe.
Food games at advice.com.
We've got some stuff in here that I think is interesting and fun. Colton writes in and says, Hi, Waypoint. Hope this email finds you okay. Which is a weird way to start an email, honestly. Listening to your recent podcast where you talked about unfortunate situation of finding yourself eating a meal which your friend prepared and having to navigate the ordeal of said meal not being good. This reminded me of a neat little trick I always use when I know I'm about to have a meal at a friend's place. I simply skip the meal prior. If I'm heading to my mate's place for dinner, I'm skipping lunch. Upon arrival, my hunger sets me up to enthusiastically and honestly enjoy their meal, no matter its quality. Only on one occasion did I have to put in the effort, which is when my partner's aunt presented me with a warm, verging on hot salad with grapes. It was weird.
Ooh.
Anyways, take care, be safe, love what you all do. A hot salad with grapes.
What does that mean? Like, was it microwaved?
No, so
How does
there's roasted dishes that like are like it's like a roasted salad, like you
Like
know,
a
grape and
arugula.
olive,
Right.
and chicken. Like this is a great meal, and it is served hot, and it's not weird. It's delicious.
I hadn't thought about that. I guess that is like a salad, huh? Yeah, okay.
It
But
could just be like, but if you're like grapes aren't warm,
this is the thing.
perhaps
My
they could
mind
be.
does say grapes aren't warm.
Yeah.
I do
Yeah.
like a crisp grape.
Yeah.
Is the thing.
What
So-
happens to a grape when you warm it? Does it get soft?
it does soften. It becomes less crisp, but it also its sweet becomes less sugary.
Yeah.
And to a degree, like you do have a little like caramelization in the roasting pan, so it becomes like a slightly darker sweet. Plus, though, juxtaposed against the salty like tang of the olives, it's pretty great.
I don't want a
Interesting.
warm grape. I'm good.
You're selling me on it.
Now
Though.
I'm gonna make this for you.
Rob,
Got him.
you want to come visit? Well,
I might have business in Chicago. That sounds more ominous than I mean it to, but I might have business in Chicago at some
Rob
point this
and
month.
that business is making
quit.
you a warm salad.
Wow, Rob's gonna finish Judgment and realize there's a career shift. Is
Is on the way. This one comes in from Olivia, who says, "Hello, Waypoint. My fiance puts honey on his ice cream. He makes stranger meals all the time, but this one genuinely baffles me. Isn't ice cream sweet enough already? It's not like he has a massive sweet tooth. He claims to, quote, like the texture." Do you have any thoughts about this?
how's
Yeah,
that different than
what?
putting I don't know,
Chocolate
cinnamon,
chocolate or
anything
something?
on ice cream?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
it's an-
that's
it's like
part
a
of
syrup.
the. Yeah.
Honey's so thick and like...
So is good
So
syrup.
is caramel.
I guess
Yeah.
caramel is. Yeah, good syrup is thick.
I mean,
Caramel's
caramel
not as
is-
thick as you get.
Caramel's just fucking sugar. Like, right?
Also, there's so many different honeys.
Yeah.
There are different
Like
honeys.
you can get
We
some,
underutilize honey.
you can really get some out there honeys that are like a really fascinating caramel.
Rob's acting is
someone
only in
please-
the mood for out there honey.
Please excerpt that and just do something with it. I don't
Have
know.
fun
Use
with
your
that.
imagination.
There's some real out
Got
there
some real
honeys.
out there honeys.
Okay, so I have no idea if they survived COVID or not. And I'm kind of scared to Google
The
it.
honeys?
No, not like the people, not like living. I'm saying the business. Let me finish. So, I'm scared to Google this because I'm hoping like the business might be gone. But in somewhere
shovel.
between, actually would have walked right past it that night because it is in fact between squares. But like near Harvard Square in Cambridge, in a little like walk down storefront was a honey shop, and you could tell there was a honey shop there because they had a little like cute carved bear outside the holding like the sign for the shop because bears love the honey. But like it was like, what's the way to put this? It was like a wine shop for different honeys, basically, of the world. And until I went in there, I was like, how different? Come on, really? How different could honeys be? And the answer is exceptionally so. And it was, I was kind of shaken.
Rob's Acne's world of honeys. We got a follow up here, and I think it's like
I forgot that
in
location
general-
in Final Fantasy VII's remake.
That's right. They did a good job with it. Kent writes back in and says, maybe it's a bit of a faux pas to respond to my own question days after asking it, but I just remembered something, so here we are. Kent was the person who wrote in about their fiance liking whipped ice cream, which lined up with some. I think who else liked it? Was it
Me?
Patrick
Yeah.
liked whipped?
It's,
Yeah.
I don't.
All
I've
right.
done
Well,
it
this one's
years,
different.
but-
This is Kent. You should have led with this. The number of times this has actually been made is fairly small, but they've been memorable. My fiance invented something a while back that she calls potato chip crispies. You take the stuff that settles to the very bottom of the bag of potato chips after you've eaten all the decent-sized chips. So we're talking about small bits of chip, seasoning, and salt, basically. You pour it into a bowl, and then you pour milk over it like cereal. Every time we've done this, it's been with plain salted potato chip as opposed to something with color like a Dorito. So they resemble Rice Krispies a bit, hence the name. It's actually not as bad as it sounds so long as you know what you're getting into, but it's definitely out there.
I thought it was going somewhere beyond that, like where there was in a mixing bowl.
No.
Nope. I was like, yeah, okay, so they're going to make like potato chip bark, like a little tempered chocolate, a little, oh man, that sounds like fun.
You pour it in the bowl, put yourself some 2% on top, get yourself a spoon.
Okay.
There's not even enough at the bottom.
That's the thing.
There's not
I'm
enough.
not against the idea, Austin. I can get with it. Okay, fine. You wanna have a cereal bowl full of potato chips? Fine. Go with God. But the residue of the bag, there's not enough. You're just fucking up a glass of milk. If this happened by accident, you'd be like, oh no, I need a new glass of milk.
Wait, in this scenario, are you pouring the chips into a glass?
That might be preferable. Honestly,
God.
you put them in a glass, you put the milk on, you can just drink it really quick. If that's what you have to do to feel good about not wasting the chip crumbs.
Yeah, it's eco-friendly approach to chip consumption.
Honestly, the most upsetting thing to me is that this is cold. I don't know why, but if you warm that milk up, I feel like this would be normal.
Why?
So, Cado, I suppose
hold
if you warmed up the milk and frothed it, yeah, maybe.
Well, to be fair, there's a Colombian dish called changua, which is basically an egg, some cilantro, not cilantro, what's the other thing? Green onions chopped in there and salt, and like it's a warm milk soup. Like the base is milk. And like that's where my brain went. It was like savory milk things. Oh, I've had it, but it's gotta be warm for it to feel right.
Are you sure you're not leaving some seasonings out of that description?
No, it's very simple. It's basically just salt and the.
Cado, do you like it? Is it good? Are you?
Yeah, it's delicious.
Okay.
Yeah, you drop the egg in and cook it while the milk is hot. So it just kind of cooks in there.
Okay.
You drop some bread in there too. Sometimes you can like let it soak up.
Yeah, so you get like a bit of a custardy type thing going on there.
It's good.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Cold savory milk though does feel weird still.
I just started thinking about how bad I could go for some, especially on a day like this. I really go for some like champorado. That sounds real good.
Math in Austin, Texas writes in, Hi, Waypoint Radio. I've enjoyed the recent food bucket discussions. Recent breakdowns on separately sandwiches and microwaving certain meals raised the question for me. Do you ever microwave your sandwiches? I eat a lot of sandwiches for lunch because I'm not super into cooking, and they tend to be simple. A nice scratch-made bread from the bakery and good deli meat and cheese, plus some sriracha. But the key is I microwave the sandwich for about 30 seconds before I eat it. This melts the cheese and allows me to pretend I'm eating a hot meal for lunch instead of just bread and cold cuts again, but without the time, hassle, or setup of having to toast the bread or do a grilled cheese. Not practical in, for example, an office environment. Is this weirder than I realize?
Mm-hmm.
I think it's about as weird as you think. Which isn't very.
Yeah.
It isn't.
It's a little weird, but it's not that weird.
It's just that's not gonna be good for your bread at all.
Or your condiments. That's the thing. Like, not every condiment likes being nuked.
No.
No.
Yeah, I would worry about the bread. The bread is the thing that like it can get spongy and not rubbery, but bouncy in a way that's not what I want for my bread.
This person just needs a toaster oven. Like this is your perfect.
No,
but they're in an office.
They don't have time for that. They do not.
Our office space had a toaster oven.
I need to make sure I'm not going to dox this person.
Okay.
1 second. I might not be able to say the thing. Yeah, I can't say the thing that I want. Here's what I'll say. Based on this person's email address and signature, they're in a high stress work environment with limited. I can imagine I can imagine their days being very busy.
Sure.
And maybe they only have a toaster or
they don't have that bread toasting life. That they're you expect them to like open a little like one person Quiznos like right there for themselves in the middle of their day? No.
Hey, is Quiznos done? Or do they just rapidly
I think they became a
scale
literal
down.
case study for overexpansion of the franchise, and like literally went from being a beloved Rocky Mountain like sandwich chain to being a national case study in how you destroy a brand.
There's like not a Queens within, or Queens, geez. There's not a quiz. There's like one Quiznos in Queens or something at this point, and it's very far from me. And I would just I would like to go to a Quiznos again. I haven't been to one in like
Still around.
6 years. I could go into the city to get to a Quiznos.
There any pot
around
bellies
here,
here?
but
Quiznos is alive and well in Massachusetts.
actually, wait, permanently closed.
I think
Quiznos is out of New York.
Way more
That's a lot
common
of
out here.
permanently closed. Shit.
Is
Quiznos
Quiznos dead?
This is what I'm trying to figure out. Did
Google's
they kill
top result doesn't
Quiznos?
say they're dead.
Rob, you
I'm
got to get on the
concerned now.
case.
Rob, yeah, can you report
there's-
back on?
There's one around.
Investigation to be had.
I have to go to
The one nearest to me says it's open.
the closest ones to me are in New Windsor, New York, at an airport. Don't even know where that is. And then Trenton, New Jersey is the other closest one. I can't even go to Long Island for a Quiznos anymore. Fuck. There was a Quiznos on the road that there was like a big highway, basically, not a highway. It was like a major road that kind of went east to west near where I went to college. And on the road that it intersected with that went to the bowling alley where I took my bowling class in senior year, there was a Quiznos right on that corner. And so we would go to bowling class, and then more often than I'd like to admit, I would skip my next class after that to get Quiznos with my friends instead of going to whatever class that was. Probably math. It was probably math class, a class that I skipped like 18 times in my senior year. It was a mistake. I got whatever. I passed all the tests. So it was fine. It was like compulsory, whatever the lowest level math class I could take was, because I was throwing myself at English and philosophy classes. So anyway, I miss Quiznos. I got a lot of love in my heart for Quiznos.
They had 4,700 locations in 2007. Apparently, that dropped to 400 in 2017.
You look at the same article I am.
Yeah.
Cado?
Wow.
The history of the Quiznos collapse.
Wow.
Let me tell you, the bottom part of that wiki page goes to some dark fucking places, by the way. Like, the franchise model was super toxic and exploitative.
Oh, sure.
And, like, the stories there are dire. So, yeah. Quiznos, not a healthy business. But
But
I
you
got a
should
question here,
toast your
and this
sandwich.
maybe will be our last one here. This one comes in from Waz, who writes in and says, "At what time of the day is it too late to drink coffee? Does this change from day to day?"
see, this is just Waz trying to get us to talk about how we're aging. I don't trust this shit.
I
the
might have
answer
to
has
excuse
changed.
myself from this. I mean, it's definitely changed, but I'm still living an unhealthy coffee life compared to most, I would say.
All right, where's your cutoff? Where's your cutoff, folks?
I don't want to talk about it.
I
4
will have the
Oh my
4 p.m.
God.
is 4 p.m. is the last, but I will say it's not because like it will keep me up. Like, coffee doesn't do that to me. Like, I will still crash normally and can go to sleep. I feel like Cado has mentioned in the past that if he has it too late, it like fucks him.
Yeah, I will stay up till 3 when normally I'm
Yeah,
in
so that
bed by
doesn't happen.
12:30.
But usually I have like 2.5 cups over the course, 3 cups over a course of a day. And then if I'm just dragging at the end of the day, and I know that I like need the energy for the kids at the end of the day, I don't want coffee. Like, it's not doing anything for me. So we actually have the tiny Coke Zeros, like those little mini cans, because I don't want a whole fucking Coke. Like, that's just too much sugar. But I basically need to shotgun blast my body. And those tiny little Coke cans, they 100% do the trick. So I have one of those. If it's like 5 o'clock and it's like, well, that coffee, well, shit, that didn't do anything. I'm still on a downward descent, and I'll have one of those and I'll make it through, dinner time and putting the kids to bed. But yeah, usually 4 o'clock. I'm not like, I've never been a late night coffee person. I feel like we're about to learn from Rob and Austin some wildly different.
So I think Austin and I are now on two different sides of a divide. I used to be like, people talking about I can't have coffee after X was just like people speaking in tongues to me. I was like, I do not understand what you're talking about. Like the experience of just being bathed in caffeine and nicotine was just so like familiar to me that I was like, of course you go to sleep. I can sleep at any time. It doesn't matter. And at some point in like the last 5 years, it isn't like coffee gets me too wired, but it is just like, if I have coffee after 5 o'clock now, this is what I've learned.
Wow.
5 is my heart cutoff. Because if I have coffee after 5, come like 11, midnight, I'll just be awake. Sleep won't even, it's not insomnia. It's just the things that make you decide, hey, I'm getting a little tired. I want to go to bed. They just don't happen. And so I'm like, I'm good to keep going. But I started doing the math where I was like, but I do like getting up in the morning. So it would be really helpful if I started feeling a little sleepy sometime before 3 a.m.
I blame my parents. I accuse my parents. My like mom and stepdad and my like dinner time situation when do y'all have dinner? What is your dinner time on average?
Well, it's different.
37?
Yeah, that's what it used to be for us, and now it's like 5:30 because we try to eat with the kids.
Used to be like 8 or 9
normally.
for me. It's become more like 6 or 7.
Earlier, right? So yeah, I think I've always been like a 7:30 dinner, and then after that, my mom and my stepdad will put on a pot of coffee that is half decaf, half.
Yeah,
caffeinated.
I've been around those environments before. That's
but
pretty
that
common.
the half and half is new. Growing up, it was full fucking blast.
Yep.
8 p.m. Okay, so my mom is a poet who stays up late, who blasts music until 2 a.m. Right? Like this is the world. This is who I am. It's how I was shaped. I was shaped in this forge, and so that was like normal for me once I started drinking coffee when I was like late high school, mid to late high school is when I started drinking coffee, probably right. And so I was like, yeah, I'll have a cup of coffee, and then I went to college, and the thing is, I didn't have a coffee machine in my room or in my dorm. But I was not sleeping. And so at 2 or 3 a.m., I was like, I'm not going to fucking sleep anyway. I'm going to go walk to the 24-hour Dunkin' Donuts and get a cup of coffee and then come back and play some video games until my first class at 7 or whatever, 8 or 9, and then just didn't sleep. And so that was a whole different era of late night. There's no such thing as an era or a time when I wouldn't drink coffee because I'm barely sleeping anyway, or I'm getting most of my sleep comes after my morning class before my late afternoon class or whatever, because college Austin just didn't live on human time. Grad school me would drink coffee until the coffee shop closed, basically. Right? Because like I lived at various coffee shops in and around the places I was doing grad school. And so that meant being there and being a paying customer and having a hot drink with me that was always caffeinated, which often meant until like 10 p.m. That'd be my last cup for the night. And that's late, you know? Now I tell myself the last year has been interesting, right? Because it's like, there's not that pressure to have a drink at a place, and I'm working from home. And so I'm not going to put coffee on at 9 p.m. anymore. It's just not a thing I do anymore. But if I'm out for a walk, I think the latest I would put coffee on at home at this point is around 5 or 6. And that's one cup. It's like, 1 cup of coffee, maybe 1.5 cups of coffee or something like maybe 2 cups of coffee. But if I'm out for a walk and I walk to, and it's 9 p.m. and the cafe is still open or whatever, I might just quickly grab a cup of coffee still. I have cravings for it late at night still, like bad. There are lots of times it'll be 10 p.m. I'm like, I would crush a cup of coffee right now. I've been a very good adult. I've not made it because I know it will ruin my sleep schedule even more than it already is. But it is warm and comforting to me. And I do miss living that life. So I have not totally crossed over to where you are, Rob. The 5 p.m. to me sounds impossible. Like I do need a jolt for that final back half of the day, but that's also where I get my most work done anyway. That's when I settle into writing mode. It's when I settle into research mode, prep mode, whatever it is I'm doing. My best hours are from like 6 p.m. till 3 a.m. And so that's when I actually need it the most. I haven't drank coffee yet this morning because I just wake up and do the podcast. It's fine, right? But if I have to like do harder work and like need my attention to be more focused, that tends to be at the end of my days. So
I love late night coffee, evening coffee. So like this is where I finally crossed into I need to find decafs I like. Just, Counterculture is a coffee roaster I like. They make a really good decaf that like presses the coffee button really well without keeping me up. So like because it turns out like once I did decouple it where it's like I'm not working late, like I'm just gonna accept that, hey, I get tired, I get less sharp. I don't need to keep trying to pursue productivity till like all hours. Once I decoupled that, I was like, yeah, it turns out I still really like curling up with a cup of coffee at night.
Yeah.
It just needs to not be caffeinated.
Yeah. I should just get on the decaf tip. Like I just need to commit to that and learn to love it. It's just, I do love that jolt. I do love that little burst. It does not yet keep me up in that way to where a 9 p.m. cup is disastrous, but that's because I'm not going to bed until 2 or 3 most nights anyway, right? That just lines up like that. So in some ways, I think I found what my honest equilibrium is,
Do any of you all have any people in your life who are the type that will drink a cup at like 11 and fall asleep in like the next hour?
That can be me if I'm tired enough. And that's how I was for decades, like from 15 till 32 or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Like
that was my
would
dad
knock me
throughout
out.
my entire childhood, which was bizarre. I was like, well, how are you drinking coffee at 11 p.m. and being asleep by 11:30?
And he makes like proper coffee.
Yeah,
He's
it's
not,
a fucking
weak ass coffee.
tinto, like fucking the mocha, whatever, like strong shit. And it was just like, yeah, I'm gonna have a tintico before I go to bed. I'm like, before you go to bed? Sure, I guess. And
Bodies are weird, man.
Yeah, it was wild.
And brains. I feel like a lot of it is we get into patterns that like make us comfortable enough to fall asleep.
Right. Totally.
Well, and also I think there's just a huge element of acculturation too, where like how people expect the thing to hit them will affect how they engage with it. If coffee is just kind of I'm not drinking for the stimulant aspects. It's just a drink I like. Maybe it gets easier to just like, take a little nap. My parents, they drink coffee all day, but they make the weakest bathwatery coffee.
Sure.
To give you an idea of my parents' coffee culture, Gloria Jeans was a big deal for them back in like the 90s. You guys familiar with Gloria Jeans?
No.
So this chain, I'm not even sure they're around as much anymore, but Gloria Jeans was like in this in-between phase where
they're around and they're making K-cups now.
That super
Is that track actually? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So Gloria Jeans falls between like the
I see.
espresso revolution that like Starbucks ushered in and the, just your Folgers era of coffee culture, like that predated that. Gloria Jeans comes in the middle where they're like, hey, what about flavored coffees? And they were in all these mall kiosks where you would go to Gloria Jeans. The store, it smelled amazing.
I could see the Auntie Anne's behind it in my head.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. And you can smell the Auntie Anne's, and the smell of the dough is mixing with the smell of the flavor oils that are just dumped into these coffee roasts. And it's like, oh, do you want some Irish cream flavored coffee? Do you want some, would you like some cinnamon chocolate coffee? And this was mind blowing to my parents. And so they got really into this for a while. But they also never made strong coffee. And it took me years to realize why I didn't like coffee. And it was possibly because it was always like maybe half as dark as it should be. Like the ratio was way off.
Yeah.
And so my parents drink coffee all day. And it fucks me up when I go back because there's always coffee on. And it's always the most watery, like coffee adjacent substance, and frequently still very like flavored. And it's weird. Now I'm conditioned to be like, this is home, this is comforting.
I was
I
saying,
like
is there
this
some
coffee.
comforting nostalgia to it almost?
Yeah.
What if
but
you
also
just categorize it as not coffee in your head? What if it's like, you know what I mean? Like the way that like Taco Bell is Taco Bell and it's not like when I want Mexican food, I don't want Taco Bell.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't like Taco Bell anyway, so that's like an outlier, but that's a thing I hear people say all the time, so I'm just going to repeat
I've
it
said
as
that
if it's
on this
true.
podcast for sure.
Right, yes. What if it's like that, where you're like, this isn't coffee, but it is warm home drink?
that's what I think
home
kind of is.
drink.
Like I'm confident there's a lot of caffeine that my parents are taking on, but like again, I don't think it registers as a stimulant for anyone involved. And so it's just kind of, yeah, of course you just have warm, cozy home drink all day.
That's part of
and
waking
then you
up.
just pass out.
Warm
That
home
sounds
drink in
all
your
right.
cup.
I thought we were done, but I actually got one more here that's I need.
I also have an image to curse us before we go, but please.
I also have an
say
image.
Reba.
We'll have to. Okay.
We'll paste them at the same time, and then we'll see what happens.
Okay. Well, mine is from an email. So
Okay, never mind. All right, do your email.
You
Go
can
ahead.
save yours. Hi, Waypoint Cruise from Martin. I've been enjoying the food takes the last few weeks, particularly the sandwich discourse. I thought I'd tell you about a sandwich that I think could be the answer to some of these concerns I've heard about getting your hands dirty, having to touch meat, etc. See image below. Email continues below. I'm going to put this image in here. This is a smorgastorta. Directly translates to sandwich cake, a Swedish specialty for all occasions.
That's not.
You may be thinking I've picked a particularly absurd image of it, but I assure you a quick search will reveal that they all look like this. I've been served this at office parties, birthday parties, graduations,
The grapes.
weddings, etc. And it's eaten with a knife and a fork. If you ever found yourself unable to fit all the good stuff you want on your sandwich, this is a great option. Do you want someone to describe what we're looking
lemon
at?
wedges? We are looking at what seems to be a multi-layered bread situation. That is being ringed by half slices of either cucumber or zucchini, can't quite tell, on top of these layers of bread that have some sort of mayonnaise looking like thing in between the couple of layers there. There is some ham, some lemon slices that have been twisted, some lemon twists, some grapes, a shit ton of
grapes.
shrimp, like cocktail shrimp, and some red peppers.
Whatever in your
Is that
mind
red
is like, it's not a
peppers or-
sprinkling.
No.
They dumped a bucket.
It is mostly shrimp. I should have started with the
mostly
shrimp.
Yeah.
Is that parsley and tomatoes?
I think those are red peppers.
Yeah,
guess
I
it could
was-
be
Those
Those
tomatoes,
are tomatoes.
Yeah,
You're
I
right,
thought
yeah,
red
yeah.
peppers first too because of the color, but you can
The
see some of the
juiciness of
juice.
some of them.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
That's tomatoes. Tomatoes,
Oh.
yeah.
Wikipedia says that smorgastorta, and I looked up how to pronounce it. If I'm pronouncing it wrong, it's the pronunciation guide lied to me. Is normally made up of several layers of white or light rye bread with creamy fillings in between. The fillings and toppings vary, but egg and mayonnaise are often the base. Additional fillings may vary greatly, but often include one or more of the following: liver pate, olives, shrimp, ham, various cold cuts, caviar, tomato, cucumber, grapes, lemon slices, cheese, and smoked salmon. Smorgastorta is served cold and cut like a dessert cake. The types of sandwich cakes vary from meat and fish combinations, cheeses and meats, to vegan. The top garnish often reflects the ingredients used in the filling. Whew! This is a whole fucking thing.
Did you? Are you
You cut
expected?
it and eat it with a fork and knife.
Yeah,
fork
are
and
you
knife it.
expected to eat the fucking like lemon slices and shit? Like all of it's tossed in as if it were like regular, but some of these things are not meant to be chewed like lemon rind.
I bet you removed the lemon rind. Maybe
I'm not happy with this.
I'm sorry, Rob. The world is filled with pleasures.
You know, I would be into this if I think the grapes, it's white grapes, by the way, specific. I can see the idea there. They're a little tartar, but I still think that's the thing that's throwing me off this. Otherwise, I'd be digging in, you know?
I
So-
saw
Rob's
some.
upset, but he's gonna make it.
He's like, how do I make this mine? I see some with deviled eggs out here from doing searches.
Ooh, damn.
Yeah, maybe I just don't like this torta. Like that amount of cold, like micro shrimp is
Love some
alarming.
cold shrimp.
I don't like. Remember that Admiral Akbar cereal thing on Robot Chicken? now with more crab meat. This kind of seems like that.
God.
Yeah, it's
so
a lot.
much stuff.
It's a lot.
I'm
Rob
gonna
or
paste-
Patrick, what is your
I'm gonna-
image
I'm gonna
before we
paste
we
this.
go?
No.
This comes in from Lucy James. She's a host and producer over at GameSpot. Apparently, this went around to some games writers. I was not blessed with this email. But
I thought you meant that Lucy was sending this email around. I was
she shared it on Twitter.
I was like, Lucy, what happened?
Why?
Look, lots of people leave to write, become PR people out of the game space, but you have to do. So so the headline is experts reveal shocking video of what our hands could look like if they evolved for gaming. And there's an attached image.
No.
In which your fingers that'd be gripping on the L1 and
Your index
L2,
and middle fingers.
the index and middle fingers have become like ET, just extremely long, but the rest of the hand has not, and is otherwise proportioned, relatively normal to what you would expect from a hand. But these fingers have gotten extremely big, so you can hit those, get those buttons.
I have this email.
Yeah.
Do not fear Homo ludens.
I found it. I found the
ET
email, and
game
here's
home.
the thing. The reason I had to find it was because if you look at it says shocking video of what our hands could look like.
Oh, that's a good point.
Oh no.
I need to find a video. Mine says image. Maybe they said video, and nope, I found the video. Here we go.
Oh no!
Here we go. This is on YouTube. Hand evolution.
No.
In the future.
Click.
This is not how things work.
20 views.
Casino review experts show how evolution within our hands in the next 50,000 years could be the key to being better gamers. This is a nightmare. Also, thumbs are bigger and more bulbous.
No, they
Experts say the increase in buttons on controllers will mean our hands need to do more work. This is just, I'm not saying the brand that did this, because this whole thing is about conning people like us to saying their name into a microphone.
No. You want to do the Google work, you could do the Google work, but
right. The
So you
ring
have
and
to
little finger would
presuppose
recede.
Oh my god.
that we would live in a world where people
Yeah.
would choose their mate based on your ability to handle the Duke Xbox controller. And like, I'm sorry, you're using a PS5 DualShock. Nope, sorry, little man.
Absolutely not.
Bring me that Chad over there with the large controller.
There is an image in this thing that these images are nightmare.
What? The little ones.
This is
how quickly does this happen?
50,000 years.
Oh.
This is what it's the thing. This is why I'm like, it's nothing.
And I think they have an image here of Cyberpunk. It's like, around then that game will be fully playable, finished, ready to go.
Ready to go.
For the new gamer hands of the future.
Well, thank you for ruining my day, Patrick. Where can people find you on Twitter?
At Patrick Klepek.
Shout outs to Lucy James Games on Twitter for
shout outs to I send features to Rob and then they appear on the website at different times. And that's not a criticism. I just fire them off and he schedules them. But I had this cool feature about a game called Cruel World, which was a game designed by designer Droken, DROQEN, in which it was for a game jam recently, in which the games were like, it was for April 1st, but like, what if we make games that like a little broader than just like trying to trick people with JPEGs. And in this case, it was a game in which it's a platformer. It looks very simple looking platformer, but there are terminals spread throughout. And those terminals can give you clues on how to get through a room, or they can be a save point at times. And you have to hack them in order to get access to either the save point or to the clue. And the problem is that as you hack it, in order to maintain, to continue using it throughout the duration of your playthrough, or if you want to use it, if you quit and come back, you have to claim co-ownership over the terminal. And every time you do that, you make it longer for the next person to hack. The idea being that players will inherently be selfish on their playthrough and eventually make the game completely unplayable instead of just learning how to play the game without accessing the terminals or doing so on a temporary basis. And so the designer predicted within a couple of days the game would be rendered unplayable as a result of the actions of players. And they have still hacked the terminals and maintained it in certain ways, but have like found alternate ways of playing the game or distributed hacked versions of Cruel World that allow you to heal the space, and have just done a lot of really interesting things for a game that was like designed to be nihilistic. Players have found a way to kind of persevere or adapt anyway. And it was meant to be as like a metaphor for, a world in climate change and kind of decline where, there's not much an individual can do. And like what's interesting about the feature is like, well, I remember I asked, did it make you more hopeful? It's like, no, not really. I think it's all still going to burn down. But I think what's surprising is how humans will adapt to the world burning down around them, which is not necessarily an optimistic viewpoint, but is probably true. So that's players are meant to make Cruel World unplayable. Now they're saving it. That's a feature I just had to go up on the site.
Cool. People should go check that out. Waypoint.vice.com, twitter.com/waypoint. Rob, where can people find you on Twitter?
At Rob Zachney. Right.
Cado.
Let's just hang out waiting for Patrick to bring me the next feature. Let me schedule it. And then I send a bill to Vice. Pay me editor's wages for adding this to DeskNet.
Cado, where are you on Twitter?
_Cado_appears.
Cado, did you see there was a person somewhere who was like, Cado has got to change his name on Twitter because it's Rip Cado, and every time I see it, it gives me a heart attack. You just stayed in Halloween mode.
I
this year.
did.
You did not leave Halloween mode on Twitter.
What's the name of the game? I say it wrong every single fucking time.
Phasmophobia?
I was about to say Phantasmagoria.
That's fine. Phantasmagoria. That's the game. I'm always gonna make that mistake too, Cado. So you're in good company. Hey, I just took down my Christmas lights like a couple of days ago. So I'm
just gonna try to ride the spooky
Holidays.
wave all the way to fucking Halloween.
Yeah, it's the thing. At this point, Cado, you're basically there already.
Yeah.
It's basically Halloween already. We're closer to Halloween. Are we? Where are we?
We are.
October?
The Shudder, the horror network recently did like halfway to Halloween like telethon. So Cado, just keep going.
Keep on going forward, buddy.
Just imagining a terrible, ready to feel old. That baby who was born in December suffered, was crucified, died, and risen by May.
Oh, damn. Oh, all right. Well, thank you to Bowen for letting us use the track Miss You off the EP Pale Machine. Find out more about that at waypoint.zone/BOEN. We'll be back later this week with some more stuff. When can you talk about more near stuff? Is that this week or is that still in the future?
No, I have to look at it. Like there was a document that I have now gotten past that point in the game, but I had not gotten nearly towards that when we first talked about it. So I'll look at that.
Okay.
Maybe we can weigh in it on.
Maybe do a check-in.
Talk about it on
All
Thursday,
right.
Yeah. There should be a new Resident Evil demo, but I think that might not get turned on until Friday. They're doing a big showcase, like the last look at the game. And
I see.
Data miners found that like a new demo has been uploaded to the PSN. So we'll see if that comes out before we record the pod.
All right, well, stay tuned. We'll be back on Friday. Until then, fuck capitalism. Go home.